All right, great. I'm really excited to bring another interview to you here inside of Marketing Tools in Tech. I am here with Krista Jennings. Krista, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm going to let you guys know who she is. So Krista is becoming the most sought after business systems strategist in the online business community. If you guys are not familiar, she's on Periscope like all the time. Okay? She is there. She's famous for helping solopreneurs and small business owners strategize how to increase their profit without working long hours in their business. And that is exactly what we like to do here in Marketing Tools in Tech. We want to duplicate ourselves.
Right. Absolutely.
So tell me how you got started in what you're doing now.
Okay, so it's actually a very interesting story. So actually, before becoming an entrepreneur full-time, I worked in operations for a nonprofit. And that actually really intrigued me, like all these tools that they were using and just like the lack of automation. I was like, I'm always a person who's like, there's got to be a way more efficient way to go about getting particular tasks done. So I started to get really involved in just, back in operations, they were using a software for membership. And I was like really interested in seeing like all the different intricate detail that was embedded, so to speak, into that platform. So, that kind of sparked it. And then I kind of just slowly transitioned out of that role into being an entrepreneur full time, and then kind of figuring things out along the way, but then kind of incorporating all the things that I've learned before becoming an entrepreneur full time and really incorporating that into my business.
So you basically are taking entrepreneurs and helping them to create systems in their business. What do you find is the number one system that people ask you to set up for them, or where they need help?
That's funny. It really boils down to like what their goals are. So, I'm always about being very strategic about your systems, because you can have like a whole plethora of like different, tools and systems that you're using. But then if you're not really strategic about it, it's like, what goals do you want? What is it that you want the system to deliver on, first and foremost? Okay, and then let's ensure that the system can actually deliver on those things and those objectives that you've set. So, some of the things that people want to automate is just like, back-end operation. So using different tools in terms of like looking at seeing, okay, if I want to really tag people under email. Now this is going to get quite detailed. So, if you want to if you want to like segment your list, like what's the most efficient way to do that so that you're not manually going in and going through all your contacts. So just using different tools that will actually tag certain people and really track their behaviors as well. Because when you track people's behaviors in the way that they're communicating with you and what the engagement is like on the back end, then you're able to create different offerings and really communicate very specifically to that subsection of your list for I guess in a very basic way, I guess I'm trying to put it. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because trying to figure out the why behind, why we're doing all of this. So figuring out the why behind the what. You mentioned list segmentation and then figuring out how people are interacting. So could you explain like why that's so important, and is it necessary if you have a smaller list? Do you need to wait until you get 1,000 subscribers or more on your list, or what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so that's actually a very good question. So I say like, think about what it is that you want to accomplish for the year. So forget about next year for a second. Think about what it is that you want to accomplish with your list this year. So even if you have a very small list, start segmenting them based on like, who are the people who are most engaged? Who are the people who are actually opening your emails like 90% of the time? And, really tagging those people so that you can, of course, if those people eventually get on the phone with you, you know that they're already really consuming your information already. So it actually shortens the sales cycle. And once they get on the phone, if you're like a coach or a consultant, which the majority of my clients are, when they get on the phone with you, they've already consumed your information quite a bit. They're pretty informed. So when they get on the phone with you, you're pretty much there just to kind of see if they're a good fit for you and close the sale. So, it's important to really figure out what your goals are and ensure that it's in alignment by being strategic.
So I love talking about this in in the viewport of sales, right?
Right.
So all of the things that we do as business owners is ultimately because we want to make sales. So the list segmentation, the tagging your subscribers, when they get on the phone with you, you can have a more targeted conversation. So kind of going into that, what are your thoughts on CRM platforms as part of creating, that business system and the customer relationship management system? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's definitely important to have a CRM. I mean, just even being able to track different, things that were said in the conversation, having it all in one place. I suggest like even starting with something really, really basic, so that you can, of course, know what, once you've gotten on the phone with someone, you actually know what was said on the conversation. And even sometimes making notes of those small little things. They may have said, oh, I'm getting prepared for my son's birthday, just, noting things like that. So that, of course, you're building an authentic relationship with them. So I definitely suggest that people don't overlook using a CRM, most definitely.
What that reminded me of when you mentioned the, son's birthday or whatnot, there was an episode of The Office where Michael had his Rolodex of people that he was reaching out for sales. And on the back of each card, he had little, kind of little facts like that, just the informal things. And I think a lot of times we kind of forget that, we're doing business human to human. So
yeah, and of course, and it's really important to have those kind of connections. Yes, people will admire you for you being an expertise at whatever it is that you have to offer, but building those like authentic, personal relationships, really connect with people on a deeper level, and it does make the working experience and building a business that much more enjoyable as well.
And I guess the way that we're able to do that is by setting up these systems so we can have the time to do the human things that need our touch. Right. And let the systems do everything else, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so now you've got your email list that's maybe segmented. You've got your CRM that's sort of working for you. What is one other major system that you think every single entrepreneur needs to have, whether they're small to mid-size, let's say?
Your financials. And, people think that like, oh, I'll just pass it on to like a bookkeeper or accountant. Well, that might be good. It's really good for you to actually understand what's happening and for you to actually have a handle on things. So, I mean, be in the know about what's going on. Be in the know about how much money is coming in your business every single month, how much you're spending on, operational costs. Like, look at those numbers, know those numbers, because, there's going to be times where, there's going to be a little bit of a dive in, the revenue that you generate. So you want to actually know what the bigger picture looks like and know those numbers. Like, don't be afraid of those numbers. I mean, when I just started out too, I was afraid to like track the numbers, but you just really have to track the numbers. Make it simple and easy. And I suggest like actually looking at your financials at least on like a weekly basis to see where you're at as well.
So as far as emails and segmentation, what tools do you recommend for that?
So I use ActiveCampaign for email marketing. And then, built into ActiveCampaign, it has a lot of automation, and then you can do a lot of tagging within the platform. So I don't need an external tool to do that. So ActiveCampaign is really good for that. There's other platforms that do provide similar things, but just from my experience, ActiveCampaign is a good place to start as well.
And then as far as CRM, what tool do you like for that?
I like Zoho. It's pretty simple. It's pretty inexpensive. And as you grow and scale your business, it generally will be able to do that as you grow as well. And there's different elements of Zoho because they have like projects, they have the CRM, they have the financials. So you can be sending out invoices through Zoho as well. There's all these different tools. Just really like keep it as simple as possible. It's really easy to have all these different tools and all these different systems working, and then you can't keep track of anything. So keep it simple. And just think about, okay, am I going to be able to stick with this tool for a long enough period so that I don't have to keep switching and changing from different systems?
Right. I want to get back to that as far as choosing a tool that will scale with you.
Yeah.
I talk about that a lot. And then what about for financials? What system would you say for, smaller to mid-size?
There's like QuickBooks, there's FreshBooks, like there's all these different tools. Using a spreadsheet as well is also good. Like, if you don't want to, if you're not at a place where you feel as if, okay, I'm going to be consistently making enough money, or maybe you're just in a startup stage, like using a spreadsheet is fine. And just, just track things. Honestly, just track things and actually know what the numbers are. That's the most important thing. So, I mean, there's a ton of different tools out there. I mean, it's really about testing out the one that works for you. Don't spend too much time doing that, of course, but I mean, use a spreadsheet if it really boils down to it.
Okay, so now I want to go back to what you were saying about choosing a tool that will scale with you in your business.
Mm-hmm.
When you help entrepreneurs and help them put, business systems in place, do you find that you have to do that educational piece as far as telling them like, hey, this one might be a little bit more expensive, but it's going to grow with you, versus them wanting to just choose kind of the cheapest option? Is that something that comes up in the conversations, or are they just like, Krista, save my life?
It depends on where they are in their business. I mean, some people are a little bit more budget conscious. And if they are, then I say, okay, these are some options that will work for you based on your budget. I always start off by asking, okay, what's the amount of money you feel, okay, I can spend freely each month to run and operate my business in terms of systems and tools. Okay, this is your budget. It could be $100 a month. It could be $200 a month, whatever the case is. And then I tell them what they're going to be able to get within that range as well. So I make recommendations based on their budget with that. But I mean, if you're really budget conscious, I mean, there's key things that you're going to have to spend money on. So don't go cheap on those things.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think one thing that I put into place was, before I was even ready, I invested in a tool that was going to cost me $300 a month. But I knew that once I invested in that tool and got everything set up, as soon as things started to grow, I would be able to stick with that tool and I wouldn't have to switch out. And
right.
It's important to understand that time is money. Like, people say it all the time.
Yeah.
It's like they don't remember it, right?
Yeah, and here's the thing. I think, too, we also need to realize that time is way more valuable than money in a sense, because once you've wasted that time or invested a bunch of time into something, you can never go back and get back that time. So, make smart decisions. But if you don't mind sharing, what tool was it that you invested in?
I actually purchased ClickFunnels. So I was looking at that versus Infusionsoft. I was going to make an investment in one or the other. Before I invested in ClickFunnels, I was creating my own landing pages by hand on WordPress and designing them and coding them and all of that. I had so many different integrations that were like kind of, stuck together.
Right.
And I said, if I'm going to start marketing my business and I'm going to have, maybe a different freebie and, testing different things out, like, I need a tool that's just going to do it all so that I can grow.
Right.
And it's been a great decision.
It's good. Right. I mean, if you're at that place where you freely can do that, don't break the bank, of course. But I mean, if you can freely do that, by all means, make that necessary investment.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, even the landing page platform that I use, which is Unbounce, like, a lot of people say, well, that's a little bit pricey. I'm like, it is, but the amount of things that you can do within the platform is just incredible. So why not make the investment now? And you can do all these split testing. So, I mean, you really have to think about what it is that you want to accomplish and where you want to really see your business grow towards as well.
So I want to touch a little bit on getting help, as far as having an assistant to kind of help with some of these implementations. So when you work with clients, are you, setting things up for them so that they can run it? Or are you setting it up and then saying, this is how you can assign these tasks to your assistant so they can keep an eye on things? Like, what do you find that you get most?
Well, I actually try to stay away from actually setting it up for them, because it's not worth the time. It's the time investment on my end. I'll probably pull all my hair out. So what is it that I do is say, okay, this is what you want to accomplish. These are the tools that's going to require for you to do this. Let me walk you through the step of how to make the most out of this tool. And just walking them through that, teaching them. I'm really taking on like a teaching role, so to speak, when I'm working with my clients. So, I mean, that's my approach. And I just show them different things that they could do with this tool. And I say, okay, you know what? I'm going to show you all these different things you could do, but let's stay on track and actually complete what it is that we've actually set out to complete.
That makes sense. Yeah, sometimes the tech stuff can be really, really frustrating. And sometimes it's difficult to explain. Like, people who are tech savvy, like, we understand conceptually what it looks like. And then we think, okay, what tool can we use to make that happen?
Right.
A lot of times people who are not tech savvy, they're like, well, I don't even understand, how that would even work. Something that actually recently happened to me when I started trying to learn about blockchain technology. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's what Bitcoin is based on, technology. And I went searching because I just literally couldn't understand. I was like, what? Like, I don't get it. What is it? And I had to go through the process of researching and understanding that it was just a new way to use the internet, basically. But sometimes it's hard to relay that to our clients and say, hey, this is the simple way to do it. So I like how you kind of walk people through it and let them do it. Do you find that they pick up on it easily?
Yes. Yeah. Because it's like, if you just say to someone, oh, this is what happens and this is what you need to do. And they're like, okay. And they're like, I'm like, okay, I don't want you to spend your time trying to figure this out. Like, you've invested in working with me. Let me show you what it takes, and let me sit down and we'll share screen and I'll walk you through it step by step.
Speaking of walking them through it step by step, I wanted to transition into, because you actually have a free gift for all of our Marketing Tools and Tech members that are listening right now. And it's 3 steps and 3 strategies to ensure you're not leaving money on the table. So could you tell us a little bit more about what that entails?
Yes, absolutely. So it's essentially through my years of like working with clients and even just working in corporate as well, I found that a lot of times like small businesses would overlook a few different things in terms of like wanting to grow and scale their business, but they're not able to grow and scale their business because they're overlooking these 3 strategies. So if you want to know what those 3 strategies are, go ahead and grab the gift.
Ooh, the curiosity. That's a marketer for you. Love that. Okay, well, thank you so much, Krista, for joining me today. Is there anything else that we didn't cover that you'd like to include?
No, that's everything.
Okay, great. Well, Krista's inside of the group. If you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments below this video. And I look forward to seeing you guys on the next interview right here inside of Marketing Tools and Tech.
Bye.
Bye.